So I would say I am a mixed media watercolor artist and muralist. I work primarily on paper with watercolor, ink, airbrush, pencil. I actually started embroidering my pieces as well, which is really fun just to play with different materials. For murals, I do both brush and spray paint. Just haven't figured out which one's my favorite there, but depends on like what's better for the wall. So I actually graduated in 2012 with a BFA in art from the University of Oregon. I decided that I wanted to be a studio artist pretty early on, but I never really took it seriously. Art was always a part of my life. I could always draw, I could always paint, and communicate with people that way and do these vendor events, art walks. But really, when my daughter was born about 4 years ago, however you look at the timeline, I decided that it was time to get serious about art because I realized that time is so precious. And also just going through the experience of becoming a parent was so emotional for me. I needed a way to kind of express all those emotions. In fact, the first painting that I did after kind of like everything was called Overwhelmed, because it was everything that I was feeling, so I had to put it on paper and kind of show people that, you know, the way that we go through these experiences, these big milestones like becoming a mom or becoming a parent, sometimes there's no words to say what we're feeling. And also sometimes you kind of lose your identity along the way. So my art is really about finding that place where you can be yourself. And so creating these pieces was a way that I was able to kind of speak my truth to other people. My art style is, I think when you see it, you're like, okay, this was made by someone who is definitely a perfectionist. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from too. It's like, I have an idea of what, you know, a flower should look like, or again, relating it back to myself, what motherhood should have been like, or what parenthood should have been like. And it's not really like that. Like the pieces kind of take life on their own. You know, when you work with any material, you can kind of shift it into the space that you want, but there's also mistakes that will happen, or splatters, or you know, the water will run this way instead of that way. So I try to control it as much as I can and try to show that sort of like that tightness that I'm experiencing, but at the same time, just the nature of the medium itself, it's water, so it will do what it wants to do, just like in real life, you know. Because I take a lot of the symbols from folktales, from fairy tales. I kind of view, you know, my experience through those stories. It's something that I'm very connected with. My grandmother is a librarian, and so I loved, ever since I was little, I loved fairy tales and folk tales, and just the way that people throughout time have used these stories to connect with each other the way that we do now through art. So I like to kind of refer back to the fairy tales and those stories and bring them into my work, and it being a dream world where, again, people can be themselves in this space. I kind of think it fits very well together. Working on murals has been amazing and so much fun, and also very difficult. It's kind of an interesting, I think, so you have what the client wants, or what the community wants. You have your own art skills, and then you have like what the rest of the public is going to think about it, and all those things have to come together and sort of be successful, and it's very hard. And I think it could also be it's just a very physical thing, because, you know, you're using your whole body to create something that's, you know, much bigger than me. I'm only 5'3", 5'4" on a good day. So it's just, it's definitely an experience. It's very vulnerable to put your work out there and to have people view it without knowing you, without knowing what your work is about. But again, that comes with the territory of, you know, you're showing your work and sharing your experiences, and hopefully if I've done my job, then what I want people to feel comes through in the art. Of course, some people will take it differently, but I think what also has helped me with that, with sort of being out in the public eye and like being critiqued, is working on these public murals, because you are working outside, you have direct contact with the public, and people are not shy about saying, you know, this looks good or that looks good or you should do this. So I think by going through that, I am better able to deal with critique in the gallery, because I've already kind of, you know, gone through it elsewhere. But yes, it can be very, you can be, if you're in a like wrong headspace, it could be very damaging, because, you know, you're not ready to receive that feedback, and you just have to kind of put yourself in the right headspace, I think, to deal with it. I always tell people, like, go do, if you're an emerging artist, do the Riverside Artswalk, because you don't need a lot. You don't even need a table. I saw people, they bring the paintings and they just put them out and people can see them. As long as people are seeing your art, and you get that instant feedback, because, you know, people will either, you know, gravitate to certain pieces. You can see what people are liking, what's resonating with other people, which is always exciting. You get to talk to other vendors and sort of share your knowledge, or they can maybe, again, tell you about other, like May did with me. She just freely shared that, you know, about all these art events. So it's always exciting, and once you do the Artswalk, you have this sort of like, I don't know, drive to keep painting, keep creating, and it's like, it inspires you, because you're inspiring other people, of course, with your art, but it inspires you right back. So there's such strength in community, especially when artists come together and, you know, share their experiences. So having that, and kind of like I see the Arts Council as sort of like the core, and everyone, it's like the leader, right? So everyone needs a leader, and to kind of come together, that's where they could do that. So that's how I see it, and I think that going forward, that would be really great to see, is just like having a central hub where artists can come to, because I think maybe, and myself too, you know, I hear about the Riverside Art Council and I think like, oh, you know, there's no place for me there, because it's like, that's where the adults are, but it's not. It's like, that's where people who are there to help you, and, you know, they're your peers, they're there to collaborate. I would have never thought like that my art could be anywhere, you know. You always have these dreams of like having shows and being an artist, but again, being maybe from an immigrant family, and you kind of have a certain set of expectations, so you never think like, oh, I'm gonna be an artist. So I never even saw myself here, and never could have imagined that this could happen. And so being here, it sometimes feels very like overwhelming. You're just like, oh, I'm an artist and I am doing work and murals and like connecting with other artists in the community. And so it does feel a little bit surreal at times. So you kind of have to step back and like take a breath. But you know, you just keep going. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next like year of building on what I've done so far and seeing what, you know, Riverside is doing. It just inspires me so much, so it inspires me to keep going. But yeah, I just feel a little surreal sometimes.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All
Really,
right.
that was useful. I rambled so much.